Hey guys, Toby Mathis here, and we're going to go over what's going on with the Corporate Transparency Act in light of the Supreme Court's decision yesterday and another lesser known order that was entered in about a week ago or a couple weeks ago by another court. And so we're going to go over it. As of right now, there's not a required filing. It's not legally required to file, and we can go straight to FinCEN. In fact, I'm just going to do that right now, and we can take a look so that you know, hey, wait a second, I don't care what everybody else says. Let's just go straight to it. And you can see right here, this is FinCEN, so the Financial Crimes Enforcement Network, Department of the Treasury, and this is under the Corporate Transparency Act that was passed in 2021. Like, it's been a while since this thing passed. It was in force all last year until a court in Texas called Texas Top Chop Shop. Right here, you could actually, there we go, Texas Top Cop Shop Inc. versus McHenry. And the National Federation of Independent Businesses was also one of the parties to it. So it's got a lot of press. A court in December, I think it was December 3rd, entered a national injunction against enforcement of the Corporate Transparency Act and the BOI filing, which is this beneficial ownership. But we can see right here, even though, I'll give you guys the quick history, we had a injunction imposed. The appellate court of the Fifth Circuit for where this court's located stayed that injunction, and then another panel of the same appellate court called the Merits Panel vacated that stay of the injunction, which means the injunction was back in force. And then the government appealed to the Supreme Court. And yesterday, the Supreme Court ruled that the injunction, that the injunction was basically stayed. So the vacation of it was stayed. Let me see if I can make sure I got this, because we had a injunction, a stay, and a vacated, and a stay. So let me just go straight to that one too. I'll just share that here. So I think I said that right. But here's the Supreme Court decision. So basically, we're looking at Justice Alito, and that injunction is stayed. Yeah. So we had we had an injunction, a stay of the injunction, a vacation of that stay, and now it's stayed again. So under this particular court, the Texas Top Cop Shop, that injunction's no longer in place. It's been stayed. So what that means is that you would, under this case, have a requirement to file. So that so yesterday, we just start getting inundated, and I'm going to read some of these because they're pretty extreme, right? We start getting inundated with people saying, oh, you have to file, it's back again, and scaring people out of their pants, We hadn't heard anything from FinCEN yet, so we didn't know what their position was going to be. But for those of you guys who follow this stuff, we already knew that there's another case, and I'll show you that case here in a second. Let me do one other thing first. I'm going to share back out FinCEN so you can see the beneficial ownership. I didn't really give you guys the language. In light of the recent federal court order, reporting companies are not currently required to file beneficial ownership information with FinCEN and are not subject to liability if they fail to do so while the order remains in force. However, reporting companies may continue to voluntarily submit ownership information reports. This was updated on January 24th, 2025. So that's the position of FinCEN. So you can ignore all the internet people. If I go to the internet people, like there's a ton of them out there, I'm going to put some of them up. CTA enforcement by FinCEN to proceed following Supreme Court ruling overturning a national injunction against the Corporate Transparency Act. The U.S. Supreme Court allows for BOI reporting requirements to be enforced once again by FinCEN. These were all hitting me yesterday. Supreme Court stays CTA injunction. On January 23rd, 2025, the U.S. Supreme Court issued a stay for the nationwide injunction that banned FinCEN BOI reporting. Get ready, new BOI reporting deadline might be released soon. The Supreme Court allows the Transparency Act to go into effect pending court challenge. The act requires most companies operating in the U.S. to publicly list the names, birth dates, and ID numbers of their owners. Supreme Court lifted the BOI injunction that previously paused enforcement. The new reporting to deadlines remain unclear. We're waiting further details. At least this person's saying, hey, let's wait. But of course, then you get the litigation attorneys throwing it out there. Supreme Court lifts injunction on Corporate Transparency Act. Reporting companies must file BOI reports. No, they don't. They don't have to. And here's why. Not to take a contrarian position, but usually you want to have a little bit of hedge language in there, guys. Here, I'll just show you the actual court case that people are, where the injunctions back and forth. And that is this Smith et al. So Samantha Smith and Robert Means, two individuals. Facts aren't horribly important on this particular case. I'm just it's basically two individual property owners that have LLCs in Texas saying, hey, wait a second, I'm not doing interstate commerce. What is this thing forcing me to do anything? What matters is if we go all the way down to the end of this order, and you'll see it was signed on January 7th, so it's fairly recent. But it says basically the reporting rule, and this is why it's important. This is not something where they're saying, hey, similar to Texas Top Cop Shop, they're looking at it saying, hey, it's unconstitutional, therefore I'm granting a national injunction. What this is the court is staying the reporting rule under a different provision, under the Administrative Procedure Act. And their position is that the Administrative Procedure Act allows the court to issue all necessary appropriate process to postpone the effective date of an agency action to preserve the rights pending conclusion of review proceedings. So this is something kind of new, and so the court stayed the effective date of the reporting rule, which means the BOI reporting. So FinCEN understood that as being, hey, we can't collect the data unless you want to. Like, you can voluntarily submit, and they know that all these cases are on the appellate route. They're all going to, eventually the Supreme Court's going to actually take this and grant cert and make a decision, or Congress is going to act and repeal it. But the polls that I've seen thus far are still far in support of the CTA, though there's some people that feel very strongly against reporting. My position is, for small people, you're already listing it on your tax return. It's going kind of the same place. This is a database so that they can search and find out, if you're cartel or if you're money launderers. This gives them a tool in their toolbox to combat those things. I understand the government's position. And there's this idea that the will of the people is being overturned by, one federal judge can do a national injunction. The Supreme Court's going to have to decide whether you can do that too. They're honoring these things, but there's a question as to whether that's appropriate. And that's where we're at. So, I just threw a lot out at you. What you should take away from this is that the reporting rule is still enjoined, but that could change quickly. And so if you're one of those people that is not filing, stay tuned to these things, because as of yesterday, there was people that were convinced, hey, Supreme Court stayed that injunction. So there's no injunction in place. You got to file. And we don't know when. You could be, FinCEN could say, hey, it was January 1st. We're gonna start. It's due today. Or they could give you a period of time. So what they did before is they gave a couple extra weeks when the Texas Top Cop Shop was working its way through the appellate court in December, because there was court orders being issued literally right after Christmas. And so they were saying, hey, you don't have to file this thing. Christmas Eve. There was or day before Christmas Eve. I think it was on the 23rd. They said, hey, you have to file. And they said, okay, you can have until January 13th. So they gave a couple extra weeks instead of January 1st. So we kind of know what they're thinking. Hey, let's give you a little bit of buffer, but we don't know. We're hoping that they do that, but they're not required to. So there you go. File it if you don't want the headache. If you want to, again, be one of those people that says, I'm not going to file, it's non-constitutional. Well, you're kind of getting your wish right now. It's definitely a mess. And holy moly, like, come on. Maybe Congress will just repeal the thing, although I kind of doubt it, given what I'm seeing. But you never know. You never know. So stay tuned if you're one of those people that's not going to file. If you've already filed, then don't worry about it. Again, for small companies, they already have this data either through your bank or through the reporting requirements on your tax return. It's already on your K1, or it's already on your Schedule E of your 1040, or Schedule C or Schedule D. Like, they already know this information. But of course, FinCEN wanted their little database. And that's what they said, is they didn't have easy access to this stuff. So they got it, and they got some tools to combat criminals. And the penalties are so enormous. It's like $591 a day, 2-year prison sentence, up to 2 years in prison, and $10,000 fine for noncompliance. So this thing has some pretty sharp teeth. That's got some people up in arms, arguably rightfully so. I'm not a big fan of this thing, but my job is to make sure that my clients are advised appropriately and have their eyes open to make their decisions. So it's a little bit different. All right. That's it, guys. Comments down below. If you know any other information that I don't know, if you know of any other cases, there's 3 where it was constitutional. I think this is 2 now, or this is the 3rd case where there's been an injunction of some sort entered. If you know of any others, or if you're aware of anything, put it down in the comments below. Otherwise, just keep checking back in, and I'll always put new information out there when I hear it. Thanks, guys.